Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. And today is the first day of Artvent, kind of like Advent, but for art, which means we will open the very first door of the Artvent Calendar. Basically, the concept behind like this Artvent Calendar is that it's like similar, to Vlogmas, for like vlog YouTubers, but considering that my content is more about, creating art, I thought that would be like a nice, alternative to Vlogmas. So basically, every day until Christmas, I will open a door of this Artvent calendar, and each day there will be a different video idea inside, and I thought that would be really fun. So yeah. And as you can tell, today the topic is, the first video idea in the first door is making a DIY advent calendar, which in my case I use for the Artvent calendar. And as I just said, in my case it's like filled with little notes of video ideas, but of course for you can add whatever you like little toys or maybe like candy or both. And the reason why I initially thought of this idea is because I remember from my childhood that my mom once also made like a calendar for me and like my siblings. And in my case it was basically like this little wooden house or like cardboard house, which my mom basically painted on. It's basically like a blank space. I think you can buy them in like different stores, or I think it was one of those like, where you can like sort of call like these magazines, where you can sort of buy stuff. And she basically painted it and filled it for us with all kinds of things, and I just thought it was really nice. Like I remembered like every year it was like the same advent calendar, but of course it was filled with different things. And I think it just had like a certain charm to it, that it was like self-made and, sort of like a classic edition. Every year there was this advent calendar that my mom made. And I remember specifically the way, for example, here you can see like the concept is more about like, like bows and little cardboard boxes. But you really can do it in whichever way you like, or you can think of. For example, in my case, I'm simply gluing these little boxes onto a cardboard to make it like more to like a regular advent calendar instead of like an open one, which I think is the original concept of these little boxes. But I think I just chose these boxes for whatever, but they're also like these advent calendars where it's like little surprise bags. I think they have become also very popular, but I guess it's just up to you how you're gonna do it. And yeah, anyways, essentially you start in whatever form you'd like with a blank canvas, and you can paint it on. Like for example, I use acrylic paints and also like little charms. But I remember like with the little advent calendar house that my mom made, it was really cool because she had like these, like not tissue papers, but like these Christmas napkins, which were already like printed on with like the different numbers for like advent calendar style, like 1 to 24 in our case. And all she had to do is like cut them out, and they fit perfectly on like the little doors for the advent calendar house. And she basically used glue, like this technique where you use like napkins and glue to basically create a design. I forgot what it's called. I think there is a name for it, but it ended up like fitting perfectly. And then the rest she just painted on with regular colors. And I remember in our case, like there were days where, for example, there was like a little piece of candy. Sometimes were like 2 pieces of candy. Then there would maybe like a little charm, a little toy. And for example, for me, considering that my birthday is in December and in Christmas time, for me, on the door, like in the door, like a little box, on the day of my birthday, my mom would like put in a little note. So for example, if I got like a bigger gift, she would write, go downstairs or look for the gift there. And I think that's also a very creative way. You can, design this advent calendar, be it, maybe you're designing this for a friend, maybe for yourself, which wouldn't be much of a surprise, but it's still nice to create. Or maybe, I don't know, you have children or something. And I think then it's a really nice idea and adds this personal touch. And I think, especially for the recipient, you still get sort of the surprise element, but you might not get things that you don't want if the person knows you very well, because, for example, when you have like the traditional advent calendars, it tends to be more like, a surprise, which is, I think, what many people enjoy. You also have like these blind opening reactions, a lot of packaging these days, because like the surprise element is so fun, which I totally get. But sometimes you might get something that you don't really like or don't really have a use for, maybe. So I think this is a very nice addition. And on top of that, once you have it, you can use it every single year if you want to. And you don't have to like buy a new one, and you can really customize it. So for example, maybe this year your friend or child or who knows, whoever you're making this for likes, for example, this type of candy, and next year they don't, or you want to mix and match and do all kinds of things. You can fill it with whatever you want, and I think that's just the beauty of it. And of course, the entire process of creating is very fun. As you can tell, in this very moment we're about to see, I'm kind of struggling with opening the glue bottle, but stuff like this happens. But yeah, also I guess sort of like a trigger warning if it triggers you, but as you can tell, I don't have any nails on, because I tried to go like on a little bit of a nail break until I put on like the Christmassy winter nail designs, which there will be 1-2 videos, I'm pretty sure, in the Artvent calendar, so I guess you can be excited for that. And yeah, so if you see my struggling fingernails, I guess just look away. But anyways, moving on. This is gonna take a while, which I guess this is more like the boring part of the video, just gluing down the boxes one by one. And yeah, I guess one big tip already ahead of time, because I already know how the video is going to end. Be patient, and also, try to, not to be obsessed with it, like, and sort of take time, For example, in my case, this was like in the evening, and I was like, oh, I want to go to sleep. But I was really obsessed with creating this thing, and I was like, I have to make this cool advent calendar, because the concept of like an Artvent calendar, sort of like for each day there's a different video idea. I thought it was so fun. I was like, I have to do it now. And yeah, I guess just be aware of what materials you are working with. For example, in my case, you can see like these very thin cardboard boxes. With the glue, I didn't have much problems, but I was very careful with the paint later on. So for example, I used acrylics, which are like rather heavy paints, and I did combine them with water, and obviously water like soaks in the cardboard and things like that. So I guess be considerate of that, the materials that you're working with. But of course, whatever you have at home should work in some sort of fashion. Yeah. And yeah, let's just watch me go gluing on 24 boxes, which for anybody wondering why 24 and not 25. Well, in my country, we actually celebrate Christmas on the evening of the 24th of December and not in the morning on the 25th, which I find interesting. I remember when I was growing up and, watching YouTube videos, I was wondering, like, what 25th of December? Why are they celebrating on that day? And, you have this typical image in, these movies, like Christmas movies, where in the morning they run to get their presents. And where I'm from, it's not really like that. It's like you have dinner and I don't know, I guess everybody does it a little bit differently. In my case, we always do it like this, that we call it, it's like German, it's like Bescherung. So basically, where we sort of like maybe like sing 1-2 songs, all of the lights, like all of the candles, and like there's also like really like fun lights to put on the Christmas tree, and once they're out, we basically start giving each other our gifts and opening them up, and then we're basically eating the food, which is very exciting. But yeah, I guess it's sort of different as to US, or I guess feel free for, it could be that your Christmas traditions are completely different. I know, for example, some of my classmates or people who I think are Orthodox, like for example from people from Serbia, for example, they celebrate in January, like the day of the, oh god, what are they called? I know it in German, but I don't know in English. The three not the three kings, oh god, I don't know what they're called, but it's kind of interesting how different Christmas is celebrated all over the world. So I guess just a heads up that there will be, it's one video less than you would regularly expect from a sort of like vlogmas type of concept. Yeah. And I'm trying to figure out what else I can talk about. I have written a script, but I think I've gone a little bit off track. So, yeah, I guess sort of as a follow-up, it's kind of weird when you look at my channel. Like, I made like one video. Let's not talk too quickly. Where it's sort of like a sketch with me, and I didn't talk there. I didn't write a script then. It was pretty like basic, but I was still proud of it. And now I'm sort of trying to channel like the typical YouTuber-esque style, where you do like voiceovers and write a script. I did write a script and I kind of follow it, but it's still a lot of freestyle, I would say, and I still have a hard time to sort of guess how much time I need for, how much talking time I need for a certain video, because obviously when I edit it, some parts are faster, some parts are slower, and yeah. I also don't want to give too much stuff away for like the next few videos. I truly hope that I can somehow manage to post every single day, because that is a Herculean task, I would say, especially considering that I'm not used to this. But I was so motivated, and I'm like, the idea, like I really like the idea in my head, sort of like this Advent calendar, but for video ideas, and each day, before the video, you open up one door and it's like, today we're doing this. And I thought that was really cute. And honestly, I'm kind of shocked how committed I was and how I'm actually, sort of like disciplined to actually committing and doing these videos and not being as shy anymore, I think. Because, when you start out with a YouTube channel, it's not like you just go ahead, or at least for me, not. For me, it isn't. But I guess one thing to take away for you guys, I don't know, I feel like I'm definitely not the only person in this situation, but for many, many years, I always thought, oh, you know, like sort of in my mind dreaming like, oh, I want to do like a YouTube channel sort of thing, but I never actually did it. You know, sometimes, you know, I guess it's sort of like this just dreaming, but not actually doing anything in reality to get to that dream sort of thing. And I remember so many times where I did like these mood boards or dream boards and journals and whatnot, and to-do lists and Word documents, what I'm not gonna do and who knows what. And then this year, like out of nowhere, I don't know. Now looking back, I don't know how it actually started. That out of nowhere, I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna post my very first video. And I think it was basically like almost like an avalanche, you know, it starts to like, you know, first a little bit of snow and then it's like all over the place. And I think that is what it was for me, where I think it all started when I designed my channel icon. Like I was just like, oh, I'm gonna try and come up with something, and then I was like, so it's kind of like this thing where, you know, it's reality. And once I changed my YouTube icon, I was like, okay, now this is real. You know, I just really made this reality. It's not just, oh, you know, like a random picture, but like essentially like building a little bit of a brand, you know, coming up with the name, coming up with the design. And then it went on to me sort of making the backdrop of the YouTube channel, you know, like when you go to the home screen, I guess you can call it. And it just all where it was coming together, and I'm like, oh, you know, I'm gonna write down video ideas. And then I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna put my phone up and film something, which my first video was, you know, just me drawing, because it's so funny that for such a long time I struggled to do this, when in my case, considering that I'm doing art, it's literally just putting up a camera and doing what I would have done anyways, like, because I love to draw. So how come it was so hard for such a long time to just put up a camera? But I think another aspect that definitely, you know, needs to be mentioned is, you know, some outside support. Because, for example, in my internship in summer, I came up with like fun little crafting ideas and got positive feedback. It's like, wow, you know, you could do something with this, you could start a business or whatnot. I'm like, okay. And, you know, sort of like these ideas, thoughts come up in your head and you're like, maybe they're right, maybe there's something to this. And especially once I really got into nail art is when, especially like my parents encouraged me to say, you know, you really need to like show this, you need to post this, you need to film this, like this is really amazing, you know, not a lot of people do nail art like that. And this sort of gave me a little bit more push to be like, you know what, maybe I really should like do something with it. And I'm actually, you know, now that I'm talking about it, I'm really proud, even if nobody is watching this, or barely any people, like the fact that I just did it, and after so many years of struggling and just staying inside of my head instead of actually committing and doing it in reality, I think is really cool. And I just still trying to reflect, why was I struggling for such a long time doing everything, mood boards and whatnot? And then the reality of it is, you just have to start. And it sounds so easy, but it's kind of like, it's not. But then when you actually do it, it is. It's like so weird. Like for so many years, I've been struggling to like just do what I want to do. And now, out of nowhere, I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna film, whatever. Like, I find that very crazy. Like, the human brain works in mysterious ways, I swear. So I guess really just take this, if you even see this, if you see this, like, I guess take this as motivation to, you know, if there's something you want to do, I guess just start, but rather go on like with like baby steps. You know, don't try, for example, if you want to do a YouTube channel, don't try, you know, to just, you know, how do I say it? You know, it needs baby steps. Everything needs like little baby steps. You don't need to have the best production from the get-go. You know, for example, in my case, just coming up with a name for your channel and a icon that you choose, or a picture where you already have like this idea in your head. You know, these are deliberate choices, right? So, you know, you're basically choosing your brand, and, you know, it's sort of like the step-by-step process, you know, because now that you have a channel name and a profile picture, you know, you can't just stop there, and it's just like this rolling ball that keeps moving and moving, and who knows where it'll get you, where it'll get me, where it will get us, you know. So I think that is a very fun thought, because I definitely do think, especially like with procrastination, I think there's more than just procrastination in the traditional sense, in like, oh, you know, you do an all-nighter to finish some sort of paper or a homework or whatever. I think there's also something like, you know, procrastinate life, you know, where, you know, you want to do some things really bad. You see fun little activities, restaurants you want to try, places you want to travel, and it's sort of this funny thing, this phenomenon which I see where, you know, in your WhatsApp groups and per Instagram and whatnot, you post these things, but you actually never end up doing them. And I think it's really sad, because for me, I'm then unsure. I'm like, do these people actually want to do it? Are they procrastinating? Or maybe they don't want to do it. Like, it's really a weird thing how we are able to stop ourselves from doing the things we want to do and we wish for such a long time, and that we yearn. It's so weird. But I don't know if, I don't think I'm the only one, but I don't know if it comes across like the way that I mean it. So I guess that was a rant, wasn't it? But I think it is a very interesting topic, because these thoughts have been going through my head all the time, like the last few weeks, like doing these videos, and just in general now that I design my life, I'm like, wow, it's so freeing and so crazy to me. Yeah, and for all the people, I don't know if you can hear it, but my neighbors have like small children, so maybe you can hear some like crying. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you can hear some children crying. Yeah, it's just children being children late at night, not wanting to sleep, I guess. But yeah, now you can see we're already starting to paint. The paints that I use are like just cheap acrylic paints. I guess that is also sort of, I wouldn't say one of my goals of this channel, but I feel like, especially like in the art space, be it like on YouTube, but also, for example, when I take like courses, there's sort of almost like this hierarchy on like this, and like this sort of thing, like with names or special brands or colors and whatnot, you know, want the best of the best, and, you know, just proving that you do not need the best of the best art materials. As, you know, I find that your tools shouldn't be what defines your art, but, you know, you're the artist, not the tool. And sure, AI, yada yada yada, I know, but, you know, if you're the person who paints, you know, as long as it's not like brushes that lose their hair, like, I don't know, and then are all over the place, because I have experience with that, where like the hair, the brush hairs, or bristles, or whatever they're called, like they fall out and they stick to the painting, and then you can't remove them, because then you have like fingerprints on your painting, or then it's like, it's just a mess. It's just not very nice. So I guess that's the one thing where I wouldn't say you don't need to save, but like, you know, a little bit, you know, not the cheapest, I guess, but I don't think you need to spend insane amounts of money in order to be creative. I mean, it's kind of like an irony, isn't it? Like, art is supposed to be creative, but yet there's still sort of like this hierarchy of certain art utensils and things you need to do. And I'm like, you know, the whole point of being creative is that, you know, also like with solving problems or, you know, getting creative that way. It's like, if my, for example, let's say like my colors don't work, or if I have like, let's say 5 colors instead of 500, you will still figure out a way to draw what you want to draw or paint what you want to paint. You know, that's literally the point of being creative, is that you come up with a lot of ideas instead of being limited. And I find it kind of ironic, you know, how we limit ourselves through sort of like these standards. And I guess maybe it's also like this shopping culture, like, oh, these names, and you need brushes made out of some poor animal, or I don't know, like the things I've heard. And I found it so funny because whenever I'm like in these art courses, like I just buy like cheaper things like off of Amazon and whatnot in terms of art supplies. And it's so funny like to get the reactions of like the instructors were like, I've never heard of this brand before. And I'm like, yeah, it's not really much of a brand now, is it? But it still works. Like I still had made some great paintings, so it works. And I mean, that's all that matters. I think like if you can bring your vision to life, that's the important part, is it not? And not using this and that material which costs like up to 3-4 digits, who knows what. Like I find it a bit ridiculous. So I mean, as you can tell, these colors work just fine. They didn't cost me a whole lot. I think the entire set was like in a random like supply store with for like 20 euros or something, or maybe even less, I don't know. Like it's been such a long time since I bought them. But definitely not breaking the bank here. And I guess here is the fun part, which, you know, it's all like red and I'm painting like the sides and whatnot. And I thought like the paint had like dried by the time I glued on the charms. I wasn't really correct. And when I tried to, which you will not see, which is why I'm telling you this, because I didn't film this part where I was actually filling up the Advent calendar, you know, with the little notes. I did that off camera because, spoiler alert, my camera dies towards the end. So, you know, if you're wondering why the video is simply cut off, is because just as when I was about to naturally just stop a part of the video, it died. Luckily, the video footage didn't get deleted, because I think that would have made me genuinely very sad, because I can't just start from 0 again with the entire Advent calendar. I'm not going to make 2, you know what I mean? So it was like, luckily it was saved, you know. If you're like a, I guess, millennial, or like the Gen Z who also kind of had like a millennial experience, you will know that back in the day, phones weren't so kind as to save things, like save videos when your phone died. Like your phone dies, and so everything else dies with it, it feels like. So that was a relief, to say the least. And coming back to the topic of, you know, being impatient and whatnot, I think that was like my original point with, you know, the colors not having dried and me trying to fill the Advent calendar when it wasn't dry. And, you know, cardboard soaking with liquids. One of the doors kind of like ripped. I guess on the day, like the video, I'm trying to think what day it is, but you will see, like, if you end up watching all of the videos, you will find the door that is ripped because of my impatience. And what do we learn? You know, be patient and maybe not stress yourself when creating art. And I guess for me, it's a sign that maybe, you know, doing art professionally isn't good for me personally. I guess this is more my hobby, because I think if I were to be like pressured, you know, it just would go down south. Yeah, I guess this looks pretty nice. My design is rather more simple. I originally had like all of these ideas of like doing like crazy paintings, or like, you know, for example, like basically using this entire red space as like a canvas to paint on. But I ended up just going very simple with like white numbers and little like snowflake dots sort of things, and then to add the charms. And once we get to the charms, you might realize they are metal and they're not meant for like decor. I just found them on Amazon. I think they're actually more for like earrings. I'm not sure, because they don't come in twos. Like they're all like different individual. And you don't really just simply glue on metal. Until now, they have stayed on. Maybe it's because they don't have to defy gravity, because the Advent calendar lies flat in like one of my shelves, so maybe I'm just testing my luck. Yeah, I guess in future videos I'll let you know if it's slowly falling apart or not, and if the charms like stay on. But until now they have not left me, which is very nice. And ironically enough, I originally wanted to use sort of like, you know, the great like ribbons that I showed off in the beginning, but I ended up not using them because I didn't know for what, and I honestly don't know why I bought them. I mean, I guess I can now use them for like wrapping gifts, but I honestly don't know what my vision was. I think originally I wanted to do like, you know, like wrap individual gifts, but then I ended up going for this design, you know, it's what like a traditional advent calendar stuck to this cardboard, and you know, you open the doors. Which, yeah, I guess to mention, if you do it like me, like this sort of style, make sure, oh, that's my, sorry, that was my alarm. But anyways, if, you know, you do it like me with like the doors, make sure, I mean, you don't have to, but it would make sense that they open up all in the same direction, which I made, like, you know, it's like sort of like opens like a regular door. The door, not the dough, opens like a regular door. Phonetics, am I right? But yeah, I guess it's also a perfect lead-in to mention that I actually study English at university, but not only English but history as well, because I am in the Bachelor's of Education program. So basically, you know, going to university to become a teacher, which I guess I'm not gonna open this can of worms of mine just now, but basically I'm no longer so sure about whether or not this is the right way for me, you know, to become a teacher. And the actual teaching part is really fun to me. Like, I love designing materials and things like that, but everything else, and like, just ironically enough, going to university, I just don't find it fun. I didn't find it, like, it's just not what I expected, really. Like, I thought I would love it because, you know, I was good at school or whatever, and I love learning, until I came to university. And it's just, I don't know, it feels like off for me. And I remember, I should have known, honestly, because my entire motivation was to go to university to finish it as quickly as possible, so then I could work, which already should tell me and you that maybe me and university and studying it was not meant to be, at least not in that way. Because I actually love learning. For example, back when I was in high school, like, I loved to just watch history documentaries, like, in my free time. It wasn't a lot of effort. It wasn't like, oh, you know, I have to get myself to watch these. Like, I genuinely enjoyed watching history documentaries. And that all stopped as soon as I started to study history at university. like, it doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? Like, what is this? And which is so sad. And also, I feel like this is gonna sound ridiculous. Like, I feel like I've gotten dumber in terms of like my overall knowledge in history. Like, I remember there was this one seminar that we had like last week in the session, like, you know, asking like the most basic questions, like every other, like a regular student in like middle school would have been able to answer these questions in history, but 50 uni students couldn't. 50 uni students who are like in a 5th semester of history cannot answer these questions. I'm like, what is up? And I think it's just that in university they ask you, you know, to know very specific things. Like, it's not about, you know, being well versed and, you know, being informed in general about history as a topic, but it's very specific. Like, you have a seminar where your professor is obsessed with this certain topic, so you have to do something for this certain topic and write a paper about it, even though it has nothing to do with like the general knowledge, you know, what you would need, which is still okay and still nice, but you know, the other parts have simply been neglected, I feel like, and it just makes me very sad. You know, that I'm no longer watching these documentaries and like, how can this be? Like, I should be more passionate about history now that I have the opportunity to learn about it in university, but I feel like that's not always what it is about, or you can always choose. For example, like, sometimes I just try to have some sort of schedule, and it's like a miracle if I'm able to have all of my classes in the semester that I'm supposed to. Like, it's like a blessing, you know? And then I don't always choose the topics that I would like, but it's more like survival, you know, like I want a class at all. And they are like on the most random topics that either you're not interested in, and like it's just so random. And you know, I can still always find a way to get interested in it, but it's just not a nice process, as you can imagine. And this is not me sort of like dragging university, because I know like there's nothing more typical than YouTubers quitting college or quitting university or whatnot, which I'm not gonna quit because I'm so close to finishing, especially in like history. I just gonna finish my bachelor's, so at least I have something, because I think it's also important to mention you still have sort of like a certificate, you have like a paper in your hands you can use, even though working is just as important, like, you know, having work experience, but it's still nice, and at least then it's not a complete waste of time, you know what I mean? So I'm definitely gonna finish my bachelor's, but it's really interesting to go, you know, when I go to these seminars with the, you know, knowing in the back of my head that I'm not actually gonna work in that field, and like not having the same enthusiasm unless it comes to, you know, actually designing and actually, you know, doing these things. And it's sort of funny, but also it's very relieving. And I guess we are really talking about some deep, sensitive, philosophical topics today, because I think it's really important to be able to, you know, be honest with yourself and just realize when, I'm not gonna say made a mistake, but you know, when you're just wrong, you know, you have this idea of what your future looks like, and you know, you're like, I want to be this and that, and I want to go to university and whatnot. Especially, for example, in my case, I wrote good grades, so I assumed, oh, you know, I love learning and whatnot, so university should be the place for me, but it's not. And to sort of reflect and be like, okay, what do I value, and also what do I want to be valued for, because that is something that I realized through my internship in the summer, where I just got, you know, positive feedback on things that actually counted. Like, that actually meant something for me. For example, you are very reliable or very professional. Oh, I really like the creative idea you came up with. It's super fun. And that you're a nice colleague to work with. That is something that really touched me, and I'm still carrying with me till this day, and lights me up inside, whilst a grade or ECTS points and university credits like that doesn't fill me, doesn't fuel me. And I guess it really depends on you, but that I think is really important for you to find out. What do I value and what do I want to be valued for? I think that's really important, because that's what I realized, that I just happened to be in the wrong place. I thought university was going to be it for me, that I was going to enjoy it, but now I just want to finish it. Or in general, like I wanted it to end from the very beginning. I couldn't wait for it to be over from the very beginning. And I always thought, people say they love university life, student life. I'm like, I don't love it because I couldn't do the things I wanted to do. It felt like, and it just wasn't what I imagined in my head. And I didn't get valued for the things that I value, which makes sense. Like, I find grades personally ridiculous, so of course I'm not going to appreciate it when all I get is a grade. And also, just the things that get value, like for example, highly specific things, or knowing how to do citations and perfectly do what the teacher asks you to do, versus actually having abilities of your own. Like, there was sort of this disconnect for me personally, where I just didn't enjoy it. But now that I've finally been honest with myself and said it out loud and admitted it, I think that's the really tough part, to admit, not, just that you were wrong, but, you kind of feel defeated. You're like, oh, all of my, like the past 2 years, I thought this was the right path and whatnot. And questioning yourself, is this right? Is this wrong? Am I going crazy? Or is this going to continue? Is this going to be a pattern where I'm going to try this, it doesn't work for me, and then you feel like nothing is going to work for you, these sort of thoughts going through your head. And yeah, I think it's really important to just be honest with yourself. And even though it's scary, it is really scary. I remember I broke down crying, literally. I literally broke down crying, and I'm not somebody who cries a lot, because I just felt so defeated, because for such a long time I thought, this is it for me, like imagining, again, dreaming in my head what kind of teacher I was going to be, and all of the things, like all the materials and fun projects I was going to do. And the more I was actually surrounded with by other teachers, or the everyday life, and hearing about what it looks like, I was just like, maybe it's not what I thought it was. Because for me, I thought, the teacher is it's like a social job, which it is, but not in the way that I imagined it. Like, for example, I worked in retail, or like the summer camp, for example. The irony is that the reason why I want to, not want to quit, but like the reason I know that this job isn't for me is because I enjoyed summer camp so much, which is kind of ironic, because you're like, then the children aren't the problem. And yes, they aren't the problem. What I just realized is that actually, as a teacher, you are quite alone, ironically enough, because teaching children is not the same thing as having coworkers. And I feel as though I'm not gonna have a lot of time with coworkers, or a lot of talking with like the other teachers, and there's no working together, because it's like a hierarchy, like the structure, you teach the students, obviously, that makes sense. And that's when I sort of realized, like, I was like, I feel so alone, and it's so sad, because where do you go with your struggles if you don't have a lot of colleagues? Because in tutoring, I it's not the same as with teaching, I don't have like the teacher contact a lot. And so I just felt really alone, and this isn't what I expected. And that's when I realized that maybe a more traditional job, or like a bread job, which I don't really have a problem with, would be better for me, because at least then I have like colleagues that I can talk to. And yeah, I think that's really just important to find out. And even though it's not always nice, at least now I know. And now I know a lot more about myself, that I don't like being alone, that I need some sort of like colleagues around me that I can talk to, that are on like the same level, if that makes sense. And also, as a teacher, you don't have you hear about having a summer break, but who else in your friend group has a summer break unless other teachers? And also, you have to do essentially homework by correcting things, and I actually don't enjoy that. I like a routine. I have like my to-dos that I do in the work, and once I leave work, I'm basically free. And it's so funny that I want these things, and I didn't realize that they don't fit with the profession of teaching, and how I didn't figure that out earlier. But I'm still 21, soon 22, so yeah, I can be kind towards myself. People start over in all kinds of ages, so I really shouldn't worry too much. But of course, you always worry. You always do. That's what makes us human, after all. Yeah, as you can tell, I'm almost finished with writing the numbers. We're on the 23rd of December, as we can see here, yeah. And afterwards we're just gonna add the charms, and then at some point the video is gonna just end, the video footage, because my phone will die. Which is very unfortunate, but at least I got the most important parts, honestly. It could have gone so much worse, if we are being honest. If I am being honest. Yeah, but I guess it was a very deep conversation, but I think it's just necessary to have these thoughts, even though they're not nice, to just go through these things in your head. What do I want? What do I like? What do I know? And as I was growing older, I've gotten really so much better at just taking everything as a part of my journey. And I'm not a motivational speaker or philosophical girly, not at all, but it's just, you make life so much easier for yourself if you just are it's just another, what do you say, another building block, right? Where it's, it feels awful, it is tough, but if you know it will pay off, it is sort of relieving it. I know, 3-4 years of a bachelor degree that I'm not going to use, that's not nice. But at least through said bachelor, I got to learn what isn't for me, which is already better than not knowing anything, right? So I guess you can really turn anything into a positive if you want to, but I guess for all of you people in my position, or in whatever position really, if you are unsure what to do with your life and you procrastinate what you want to do, your dreams, I guess this simple video on how to do an advent calendar might be helpful to you. So yeah, times are tough, but you will get through it, and even if it sucks, you can still learn from it. I remember so many things. I mean, there will be a lot of story times from my time in retail, but that time in retail, even though it was also the toughest, was also the best for me and my confidence, because the more struggles I go through, for me personally, the more confident I become, because it's I can rely on myself. I know, looking back, what I have accomplished. I'm whenever I feel bad about myself, I look back and I'm like, you know what, you are the person who did this. That is crazy. You crazy girl. Like the fact that you were able to accomplish this back in the day, and then you sort of like relax and, you know, not try to compare too much to others, because I'm like, oh, you know, they are doing so much more than me, like in university, like they're so good at it. I'm like, oh, I feel so lazy. Like I don't want to put that much effort in, and I feel bad about myself. And I'm like, you know, just look back. You know, you didn't have it easy. Who knows what their love looks like? They don't know what your life looks like. You know, it's just relax. It's part of the journey, and you will get through it. And sort of this, I think it really helps, like when you sort of like panic and are, you know, worried, to like look back at what you have accomplished and knowing that you can trust yourself and your abilities and what you have achieved until now, and the struggles that you have overcome. Because if you have overcome something similar or something bad or the same thing, or maybe it's even a little bit harder, you know, then you still know, okay, I've been in this situation before. I have overcome many things before. I really sound like a motivational speaker, but I don't know how else to say it. But it's kind of fascinating, you know, as you grow old, and I find it very helpful, you know, when you're having a tough time, just try to remember like some memories where like, I might feel bad now, but hey, I did this, so maybe I shouldn't worry just as much, and give myself like a pat on the back sometimes, and not be too anxious. I think those are just the things that, especially like the last 1 year, honestly, if even, that I've learned that are so helpful. I swear, it's so relieving, and I just have an easier time to go through my day. And whenever a challenge arises, it's almost like more of like, you know, it will suck. You know, you get nervous and you're kind of scared, but I know that no matter the outcome, I've gained something. You know, every sort of experience, be it negative or positive, you gain something, because there's an after that, right? After this situation, and considering that something is happening, you need to be smarter, right? Afterwards. So that's, I guess, the way I would explain it. Yeah, I really didn't think this video would get so deep. Like, I really derailed, but I think it's nice. I really, you know, getting also like my thoughts out of my head, and maybe this could be sort of helpful to you guys to get in the Christmas spirit. Because apparently like Christmas time is depressing or something, and this is not a sort of like, what is it called, winter era, or like something like that. And I think that's like the thing about, like, you know, you have like the winter era and also like the New Year's resolution. Like, I just don't think that way. Just stop with this sort of like, one day I'm gonna do this. One day, like, there is no one day. Like, my mom always tells me, like, there is no one day. If you say one day, you may never. And that's what my mom says, and she's kind of right. It's like, when are you gonna do it? Do you have, like, for sometimes, like, do you have a specific plan? Like, on this day, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna make time for it. Make time for it. I want to emphasize that right here. You know, it's not just about having time. Sometimes you have to make time. Like, I'm sitting here at 10 p.m. on a Sunday, like, what is this? But, you know, I want to do it. And so I'm like, you know what? Put away my phone. I'm like, I'm gonna start it right now. I said I was gonna record this video, do the voiceover, and so I'm doing it. I guess a little bit of like discipline. And so, you know, don't wait for the winter era. Don't wait for New Year's Eve. You want to do something, do it, make time for it, write it down, do a to-do list. Tomorrow I want to do I wanted to start, again, a little step. You don't have to go, tomorrow I'm gonna start a whole business. Like, maybe you can just collect ideas. Or, for example, as I mentioned already, like, tomorrow I'm gonna try and come up with a name for my YouTube channel, or I'm gonna like scribble some designs for my channel icon. That's how I started, and it's not spectacular, it's not the craziest thing ever, it's not the peak of graphic design, but it is something. And I think that helps because it gets the ball moving, gets it rolling, and you start. And I guess it's really just a thing, you know, you need to trick yourself with, like, to start, like, to trick yourself, because it isn't as easy once you've tried it, because once you try it, you realize how easy it is. It's very funny. Like, I swear, our minds work in not only mysterious ways, but it's also very mean. Like, why can't you make it easier for us to just do the things we want to do? What is this madness? Yeah, I'm just checking in because my my battery of my computer that I'm recording this on is already going down. Not very nice. As you can tell, I'm sticking on the charms. Yes, the metal charms, which I guess it works. I think some like started to kind of like slide off slightly because the boxes aren't like perfectly even. It sort of like goes up a little bit, probably also because of the paint. Like, the cardboard boxes soaked it up and sort of aren't, you know, perfectly even, so they kind of slide off, the little charms slide off, right? But yeah, I think once we have put all the charms on, basically this video is over. I guess for all the people wondering, what are you gonna see? Hopefully, if I manage and don't burn out and collapse, every day you should get a new video of Artvent Calendar, where, you know, I'll do, oh my god, my alarm, I swear to god. Anyway, where basically every single day I will post a new video with a different video idea. They're all sort of centered around like art and Christmas, or either Christmas or art. Yeah, and I guess what kind of videos I'll do will be revealed to you on each day when I open the Artvent Calendar door, so be excited for that if anybody watches. Oops, I'm sorry. And yeah, I guess also, if you haven't noticed already, I'm not actually an English native speaker. I do study English. Sometimes my English is better, sometimes it isn't. Sometimes you can hear my accent. Sometimes I don't know a word, sometimes I do. Sometimes I know the word in my native language. Sometimes I know it in English. Sometimes I know it in neither. If my brain is simply collapsing. So I guess to just keep that in mind and be mindful and nice. And yeah, I think we are getting towards the end of the video soon. I'm also really excited to see when the video actually like ends, where, you know, my phone cuts it off, if you can still see like my hand reaching out to my phone desperately until it was actually too late. I think I'm even like showing it off at the end, like the Advent calendar, and then it just it goes all down south, like it just cuts off. But I guess it's also sort of a thing, like, you know, you learn as you go, right? You know, you're never a master from the get-go. And also what helped me to sort of manifest, if you will, is buying a ring light, because my light in my new apartment kind of sucks. And considering that I don't have a lot of time in the early mornings and my window is directed to the east side, I don't get a lot of light. It's very dark. Especially now in winter, it's extremely dark. I hate it. It's the worst, but anyways, here we have the finished product. I think it looks really cute. And yes, I know there's some cardboard sticking out, but we are gonna ignore it. And I hope you enjoyed this video, or, you know, my philosophical rant, or that at least you have a fun time creating this advent calendar, or any advent calendar yourself. And yeah, this is the end of the video. Hope I'll see you soon. Bye.